Hi, hello everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm Kelsey Woodward, the Content Marketing Manager here at GiveSmart, and this summer has been different, that is for sure. We hope that today these ideas that we share will jog some new creativity for campaigns that you can help charter these new waters. Today we'll dig into champion fundraisers and how they can uplift your cause. So today we have two lovely speakers, Amy Gainsford, Director of Client Services here at GiveSmart, and Brandon Steck, our Director of Marketing.
Hi there.
Hi there. Thank you.
Hello. And so, yeah, they are both stellar fundraisers in their own right. And here at GiveSmart, Amy will really be able to speak to what we're seeing across our customers, and Brandon can share some insights into the market trends and the data side of things. So we anticipate going around 45 minutes today, and we'll be taking questions as we go. So please do pop them in the chat as they come to you, and we'll address them at the end during the Q&A. So another thing to mention is that we are recording this today, so please do look out for that later in our follow-up email, and at the end we'll have a survey that we would love for you to fill out if possible. So to start, Brandon, can you kick us off and how we're going to define champion fundraising?
Absolutely. So champion fundraising is a form of peer-to-peer fundraising that focuses on top advocates to drive awareness and funding for your mission. So it is just a version of peer-to-peer, often interchangeable with peer-to-peer fundraising.
Okay. Cool. And so that is going to lead us into our first poll. So if everyone could weigh in, have you run a champion-led fundraiser? So either yes, no, maybe you're planning to, maybe you've done another form of peer-to-peer fundraising, or unsure and you're hoping to learn more. So while everyone casts their vote, Brandon, just share with us, please, why this is such an important topic and why we're speaking about that this month.
Absolutely. So the main reason we wanted to put together this webinar for everyone is we know just like us, just like many teams, we can only do so many things, and especially in this world that we're living in right now, whether the team has shrunk or there's just so many things for one team to do. This is one way to really expand your capabilities, expand your reach, and really expand your fundraising, and really put together a strong supporting cast of people who can bring in some money, bring in some sponsors, bring in new donors, and really be able to expand that reach, which is something we all are talking about and trying to figure out. This is also a technique that we have seen more and more success around. So we're excited to share some examples, share some stories, and really help everyone think about how they can bring in some new champions.
Okay. Cool. Okay, let's look at the results. And Brandon, what do you make of this?
So I'm excited that so many people are looking to learn more here. We have a lot of content, a lot of information. Hopefully there's some helpful stuff here, but it also looks like we have some experienced folks and some people in the planning mode. So a good balance across the board, and hoping to really provide some content that helps everybody. But feel free to dive in and share questions that are pertinent to what you're trying to solve for. Really great to see that everyone's looking to continue to learn more and do more as we expand upon the fundraising options.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's jump in. So today we're going to run through just kind of a few different sections: obtaining champions, how to engage and empower those champions, some best practices when running these campaigns, and measuring success. So, okay, before you can run a champion fundraiser, you have to figure out exactly who these champions are, right? So Amy, can you take us through how we find these folks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the importance before you even decide who you're going to reach out to is really identifying which type of campaign you want to run. Are you looking to your board to raise money? Is it an awareness day? Are you doing something fun like a marathon, a walk, run, or even a climb? So once you identify really what your campaign is going to be and the different elements associated with that, that should really give you, more of a vision of who you want to reach out to as far as your champions can be to help you. So you'll look at different areas. Are there some volunteers who've been very passionate about your cause that are looking for ways to get more involved? Are you looking at, your senior level coworkers and tapping into some of their networks that they've got ties to? Are you asking your board to step up a little bit more and take on this new fun avenue for raising more funds? Or are you looking for celebrity honorees to kind of help champion your efforts and reach out to their networks?
Once you've identified that group, you need to gauge their interests. So it's important to, think of different ways to, if it's the first time you're engaging those people, to make sure that your message is clear and you're engaging, in a way that is effective. You're not falling on deaf ears, and you're getting that across. We had one organization who found their champions by sending a survey to all of what we would call kind of an impact accelerator, or donors that are really active in the different events and campaigns you're already running, folks that are super involved in your organization already. They sent a survey and got responses back. Another organization tapped into social media by using that same network, but seeing who they're connected to identify potentially new champions. So if so-and-so is connected to Amy, and we want to get Amy involved as a champion, asking for an introduction and engaging their interest is a really great way to do that. It's important to consider that group, who you're asking, how do they engage, how do they communicate. You want to be careful to avoid burnout among certain groups of your constituents. You don't want to ask the same people over and over again. Balance that out. Really have a plan before you just start throwing things out to the same people over and over again, so you can manage what messaging goes to them. And then many are familiar with the story. I'm a former Man of the Year candidate for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, which is a champion campaign. I was nominated, but I didn't start out as a nominee. I started out through my network, as a coworker was involved in the organization, and he attended an event, became a candidate, and then recruited me and brought me onto his campaign to help out. I was a very small donor. I'm not ashamed to say, I wasn't sure what I was getting into, so I didn't make a very big donation, but they kept me engaged, and they eventually got me to be a candidate and run and raise money and then bring in additional candidates. And now I sit on the board, and it's all about, really making sure that you are, one, gauging the interest and constantly making sure you're not overwhelming people, but also making sure you tap into the additional networks and ask the question. If you don't ask, you won't know. And don't discount based on the number of donations or participation a person gives. They might still be a better candidate in the future and later in their careers.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting point that you bring up, Brandon, about just don't discount, whether
right.
how much they give or who they are. And so, Amy, as we kind of roll into the next section, a champion fundraiser is different than that that's led by employees or a development team. And so what are some things that must be taken into consideration with the champion-led campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So really with some things to consider with best practices, make it fun, keep it, Brandon touched on this. You have your key supporters and you may ask them to get involved in a number of ways. And so being conscious about how many different things you're asking them to participate in, or, keeping tabs on who you've already asked or who you might need to ask. Giving people a break is not a bad thing. Maybe they just need a season to kind of get a little breath in there and then jump back in later, but really look for, your extroverts by trade, people who are really going to be excited to communicate your mission and share that with their networks. And so I think, changing up your campaigns, if you've run, I know a few on this call have run peer-to-peer campaigns before, so look at mixing it up a bit and just kind of adding something fun to the mix. So invite donors to do different things. You may consider some really fun challenges. I know, Brandon, you were going to touch on a few fun things that you might consider as well.
Yeah, competition obviously breeds excitement as well. And as you look at, some opportunities to have a little fun and really mix it up. So one donor isn't always getting that ask for a major donor. sponsorship or something that aspect, but they're actually getting to participate in the fund, maybe even as being a mentor to other donors to how they can get involved, some type of a committee that is around creating opportunities and having, creating fun engagement. Obviously, we all want to make sure social distancing is observed, but mix it up, create one-to-one and group opportunities that are not the norm. Wine tastings and happy hours are always great. And, it never hurts to ask. Over time, people are going to, get new interests, and they're going to maybe lose interest in the same thing over and over again. So surveying your donors year over year is so important. Asking them, especially as champions for your cause, what are the things that really triggered for you? What things didn't fit, and how can we improve those? One of the great things is that you'll learn from mistakes. If you don't try, you're not going to get anything done. But also, if you don't, if you don't try, you're not going to find those successes. And that's what we've been seeing so many times in a lot of these success webinars: is try some things, see what the interest is, and build upon those. If you see something work, it doesn't hurt to do it again, but mix it up. Try it on a different population, try it in a different area. Continue to keep things a little different, but also replicating what's working. That kind of leads us to planning all this, right, Amy? I mean, there's all this stuff going on, simple things, and a recommendation we highly want to recommend is to set goals in a timeline and look at how can we schedule check-ins and all those kinds of different things, right?
Absolutely. The planner in me really comes out at this topic in this part of the conversation, really because, we want to empower our advocates. We want to, empower them to be creative, but also give them a little bit of structure so that you can get things done in a timely fashion, so you can make sure that they're delivering your message adequately. And so really coming up with an empowerment plan where you're really setting them up for success, and you're providing them tools, or a toolkit, if you will, to kind of to really set them in the right pace. I mean, they may need some help with some messaging. Some may be so creative they don't, they take it and run with it, and you adapt their ideas instead. But really just, you want to empower them, but not overwhelm them with the idea of kicking off this champion fundraising for you or on your behalf. So really setting those goals, being very clear about your message that you want them to communicate, or that you need to remind them of what it is that you're communicating, what you want the message to be out there. And then really being strict with a timeline as far as, due dates, when things should be complete by, when they should wrap everything up. So having some clear direction in that area is definitely important.
For sure. And I think adding, to that, of thinking of a lot of those things as sometimes milestones, whether it's a fundraising milestone, a number of donors milestone, or just a time milestone. You've made it halfway through our campaign, let's celebrate, kind of thing. But what really is kind of, we're seeing a little bit more creativity around is incentivizing those milestones. So if your champion campaign in general, if all of the peer-to-peer campaign raises a certain amount of money, maybe someone, we've had a customer who actually had a leader in their office wore a prom dress every day for a month. Now that's different now, there's different fun things you can do. I would say maybe for those that are Office fans, don't take it to the extreme that Andy Bernard did of getting a tattoo, but there are a lot of fun things, even if it's, a wine gift basket that they get for hitting a milestone, something that is for them to drive for and allows you to recognize, hey, Amy, great job. You hit your first milestone. We're going to shoot for the next one, but here's a little celebration as part of that. And that can come as part of you planning. And then you'll see how those milestones go as you do a campaign or two. It's not going to just, you're not going to set the standard and say, okay, this is always going to be it. You're going to see as people go. If people are exceeding it, then you can raise that over time. But that empowerment plan allows you to do that. One thing that LLS did really great for me is they gave me email templates Kelsey can attest, is I am really good at editing a template, but writing it from scratch, I don't always like to do. So giving them a template, let them make it their own, let them add their, quote unquote flavor to it, but giving them framework, telling them, no, this is how you talk about our organization, and this is our mission and how we tell it. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to exactly use that exact template, but it gives them a framework and it makes it easier on them.
Yeah,
I love
totally.
that.
And I mean, this is just kind of, rolling right in. So now that we have these champions, right, like how do we keep them motivated and how do we keep them engaged?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned competition earlier. I think competition is a huge piece of it. I like to compete. Most people have some competitive edge to them in some fashion, but also it's a great way for them to engage because they're watching, but also listening and learning as they go. If it's not a fit for your organization, competition is not the only way to create, some excitement around and engage people, but it is one way we're seeing a lot of success. So we've told some stories lately about, chef cooking competitions, virtual bartender competition, a chalk art contest that we were really excited about that was launched this year, classroom competitions between different classrooms. It could be different groups of sororities that support your organization, walkathons and golfathons, golf marathons we're seeing more and more of. Halloween costume competitions are coming up, yard decoration competitions. These types of things are fun, often easy to execute on your side, but fun for the champions and the people in your community to get all on board with.
Definitely. And so this, I know, I don't know if Amy or Brendan, whoever wants to kind of go through this, but this was something that Megan from LLS Chicago shared with us that I think is really
for sure. Sorry, I went on mute there for just a second. So these were some tips that Megan provided with us as we were just talking about empowering your champions, how they empower their candidates for Man Woman of the Year. They provide a recruiting packet. So they provide all the information for their board to say, here's who we are looking for this type of role. That makes it really easy for them to say, okay, I'm connected to this person, and this person, but that person wouldn't be a fit. Hosting networking events where your community can invite new prospects. You can bring people into the fold and get them familiar without, charging them anything. It can be online and socially distanced and just a wine tasting where you send them a bottle of wine, or you do just a networking type thing. It's educational. You tell them about your organization, but it's really about why we want to recruit you to be a part of this without overwhelming them. Utilizing social media, especially LinkedIn, it's a great tool for that. And then creating a list of specific needs for your in-kind sponsors. If you need something covered, whether it's on-premise or during an event or a campaign, as you're getting back to hybrid events and things like that, make sure you have that list clear and easy for board members in your community to support. Amy, I'll let you jump in here on our next example.
Yeah, as you transition to that, Brandon, too, I would just definitely throw in there, think of ways and platforms that you're using to collect that data as well from the networks that you're tapping into. So, there's a lot of great examples out there, but you really want to be able to continue to promote to the new people that you're going to reach through your champions. So just be mindful of that as well.
For sure. When we're looking at, other ways you can have champion-led fundraisers, don't just think of individuals. So these are examples of the Man Woman of the Year campaign. I'm not in this picture, but it is a picture from one of their campaigns. But also McDonald's IT department supports as a champion the Ronald McDonald House Charities. And the whole department gets together because that is their initiative for the year to support that. So look at groups like sororities and local Rotary clubs and different organizations like that that support your community, or maybe looking to do some type of a benefit. Amy, anything to add to that one?
Amy, we lost her.
Sorry, I was on mute.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
mute button. So trying to remember what I was saying. You know, there's a lot of local organizations that will look to do things on behalf of organizations. So really looking to your partners that you know, that you've teamed up with in the past. And, you know, I think you hit some really important points there too already, Brandon, just, you know, looking at different ways that you can incorporate with for golf outings or different things that are happening in your town. Some specific things to really think about too. I know we had a question come in about, you know, maybe some ideas to share on how you can raise money through peer-to-peer. Really, you know, hopefully we're kind of giving you some good nuggets on where you can start and what types of campaigns you can really run. But, you know, the whole concept is putting your advocates out there to be excited and pull in your fundraising mission so that you can raise more funds. So through donations, through purchasing tickets, through selling specific raffle tickets, and really utilizing a platform that allows you to deliver that to all of the constituents that you're reaching out to. Brandon, anything else you want to throw in there before we kind of move on to the next section?
Yeah, it's a great lead into this next section here, smaller scale type fundraiser we're going to talk about. But, you know, think of it as any type of competition. You know, there's voting opportunities where it's $1 to vote. There's maybe at a local bar even. I have a friend whose organization, they do like a carnival at an arcade bar where kids can come and play the arcade games. A little bit different now, but they're still able to do those things at a distance and raise a little bit. They do what's called kind of a turkey tray or a basket raffle. They raise a little bit of money through that. They raise money through just the ticketing. And then they also have the opportunity to auction off some items. And it's a lower lift because the champions, the local individuals actually run that, and you support them by making sure they have the technology to do so. But anything on the smaller scale in regards to just, you know, having the empowerment to run a raffle through your friends, or allowing alumni to compete to raise more, reaching out to, you know, a class of alumni that's coming up for their anniversary and saying, who wants to compete to raise more, or who wants to try and, you know, sell some raffle tickets? We have this really cool item we want to raffle off. Those different kinds of things allows them to do a little bit of the work, spread the mission, and raise money.
I love the idea too of, you know, you can empower your champions to create things or do things that their networks can vote on, right? So they invite people, vote on my costume for Halloween. It's the best one. I need, you know, to raise X amount of money. You can help me do that. So it doesn't have to be a huge campaign that they're helping execute. But like you hit on, Brandon, these smaller scale fundraisers are a great entry level way for you to really start ramping up your peer-to-peer fundraising. I know you had a funny example too about a carnival.
Yeah, so the carnival is kind of similar to the arcade bar where they get together. It's not going to work as well in this socially distant world, but it is the opportunity to do a gathering when we get all back to it. Unfortunately, they're not able to do it this year, which they're figuring out, and they think they're going to do something. But one of the things is, think of the opportunity to bring people together in a virtual world that allows them to kind of get out of the bubble that they're kind of stuck into. So the networking and the building connections and allowing people to tell their stories virtually is still going to be important, and that's what's really going to connect them back to your cause.
Absolutely. And so really moving into, you know, the next section where we'll want to talk about, you're the coach and you're really driving this bus, if you will. So you need to be the one providing templates to them. We kind of touched on this a bit earlier, Brandon, you're great at editing them, but you may not be the writer, and so really giving them a jumping off place. Stay focused on your timeline, help them meet your deadlines, really be clear about your goals and due dates, help them create a sense of urgency so that they're not just putting it out there and there's no follow-up with any of their networks. And then really, staying in tune with milestones and giving rewards where rewards are due. If you want to recognize them by giving shout outs, or if you decide to reward them with other things. I always go back to the kids doing the jump rope for heart, and with each, chunk of fundraising that they would do, they'd get a little rubber ducky. And I always thought, it's a little rubber ducky. It's really, the cost is what, 3 cents, but they're so excited to receive those little duckies. So you just keep giving money. But, so encourage them along the way, help them be successful. The more guidance you can give them, the more successful they'll be. So they're doing you a favor by reaching out and bringing you some new people. I read this statistics that one champion can bring you up to 4 new donors. So if you just think about, as you're thinking about how many champions you want to bring on board, you don't know what that dollar amount is going to be that you'll raise from those donors, but the ability to reach those new people and welcome them into your organization and communicate your message is so valuable ongoing.
That is a great point, and that leads really well into an important thing of just make it easy as possible for them. They are ambassadors for your organization, and if you can and find a way to just make it easy for them to sign up and start fundraising, it is going to make everyone's life a lot easier, but also make it easy for yourself. Make the collection of funds easy. Do the research on whatever software you're going to use for these types of things, because there are different nuances and those kinds of things. But look to make the sign up and the execution super easy on the champion, the peer, because they in the end are going to execute much more efficiently for you if they don't have the hassle.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a valid point. And so now that we've kind of gone through, we've identified the champions, we have talked about running the campaigns and sort of different ideas for these peer-to-peer fundraisers. Amy, once we look at the campaign as a whole, how do we determine whether it was a success?
Yeah, definitely. You always want to measure what you're doing so you can decide whether or not to continue with it. But great measurement tools are really, start out with how much did you raise? Did you reach your goal? Did you beat your goals? It's always our intention is to raise more than we've allocated for, budgeted for. So definitely look at, the dollars raised. And then did you expand your reach? Did you, did you bring on some new people that, 4 new donors per champion? Was that part of your measurement? Were you able to tie the relationships back to that and see that in the end? How many new donors did you have? How many new, advocates might you have for your organization? You may not necessarily tie it to monetary value either. Like you may find some new sponsors, some people that want to help you out with underwriting costs in the future, or are so passionate about what you're doing. And how great is that? It goes hand in hand with finding new volunteers, having some fresh energy come in and want to be champions again in the future. So really increasing, your reach to all of those people are great measurements. You want to also keep an eye on your social media followers, see if there was an impact there, and see if you saw an increase in your website traffic. Did you spread your mission? Is that, above all, really one of your goals should be always spreading your mission so that you can expand your reach and do that much more in the future.
And a lot of the techniques we're talking about here, the goal is all 3 things, right? So when you look at how am I going to launch a peer-to-peer or a champion fundraising campaign, well, first thing first is I'm going to find champions, right? I'm going to then look to bring those people in. Well, how am I going to find those? It's going to be tied to my mission, and it's going to be tied to who can fundraise. So these are questions when you start recruiting people to ask. It's, do you feel comfortable fundraising on our behalf? And what would you set your goal at? Don't set the goal for them. allow them to first give you an idea of what they think they can raise, because they might wow you. You might be looking for $5,000 and they might say, I could raise $15,000. And that really allows them to kind of take the onus on that goal, but setting your own goals just as we're managing our own teams. That allows them to have first volunteered to do that. And that allows you to then measure that. And you can say, if someone says, I'm going to raise $200 million, you could probably reel them back into a more reasonable number. But you want to allow them to, set the standard that they want to set. Not every champion is going to be the same. Be reasonable in your goal setting so that you can explore the success that you have, and then share the success with your champions, with the people that are involved. If you expanded the reach and gained 500 new donors this year from Champion Fundraising, share that with them, because they contributed and they want to know that, but also that encourages them to do more.
I love that example, Brandon, just because, you may have some champions who don't necessarily raise nearly the amount that some others might, but maybe they brought you so many more donors than the others, right? And moving forward, ongoing for all of your outreach, there's more value down the road that will come from that. So having those different milestones that they can each participate and contribute to is so important.
Definitely. And I think that sort of ties right into these takeaways here as we wrap up, thinking about continuing to have these different campaigns that incorporate your champions, but also appeal to different donor groups each time. And again, that kind of ties back to avoiding the burnout instead of doing the same thing all the time, asking the same people. Maybe some of these fundraisers are more large scale, some are smaller scale. Another thing, and that is just ultimately to just know your donors is what that comes back to. We definitely touched on a few times making things as easy as possible. So if they can just kind of plug and go, the more successful they are likely to be. And then as well as having an empowerment plan. So celebrating the small wins, setting goals, and things you can do throughout the campaign to keep that encouragement going. And we are getting a lot of questions, which is great. So we're going to jump into Q&A. If you still haven't submitted any, go ahead and pop them in the chat box. So, okay, let's see what has come through. So this one could be either for Amy or for Brandon. What things should we be trying during COVID? We've had to cancel our benefit gala, so we're looking for more COVID-friendly things as possible.
I mean, we could go many different directions with that one, but a lot of things are done so well online, and we're seeing a ton of success from a lot of our clients at GiveSmart, switching gears to virtual, obviously. And so you can host online auctions, you can do donate-only campaigns. We've got fantastic features, obviously, that allow you to bring in your champions. They design their own web page, and they use that platform to send out and help collect donations on your behalf. But there's a lot you can do that are engaging, and it doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be a full-on production where you're, using your video elements, although those are great too. But you could even do fun things like an online raffle. You could do, like some examples that Brandon gave earlier. Tricky tray ideas can be done virtually. I think the most important thing right now to keep in mind is we need to continue connecting with our donors. It's when we stop all fundraising and shut down that we see that disconnect. And so we really need to keep reaching out to them. And it's a number of different ways throughout the year that you'll see results start coming in when you're doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Just to add to that,
okay.
Let me add some things here, because I think there's, like Amy said, there's a ton that you could do. But think about, some of the things we've been featuring in our success webinars are around donations and instant purchase item type things, as well as silent auctions and the customary things we've been seeing a lot lately. But all the things, quote unquote, that we would be looking for is almost a never-ending list. But look to find ways to engage and do, give yourself a measurement. Look at it. I'm going to do a campaign this quarter because I know I have to do something now and I need to bridge my gap. So some of the things that you can be looking to do can be parsed together. They don't need to be one massive gala. We have seen success with, the virtual gala, but you look at, okay, I'm going to run a raffle this month and really push that on social media and have my board support that. And then next month, I'm going to look at doing our golf tournament that we normally would have done. And then I'm going to look at pairing that with launching of a champions campaign and start getting champions involved. Because then once you have those people, there isn't really necessarily a time frame that you need to end that. You can continue to build those campaigns as you go. Also look at adding things like recurring giving and monthly giving, because that will guarantee some revenue every month as you get people to opt in through the campaigns. So there's a lot there, a lot to think about, but virtually, you can virtually do anything. So it's nice that we've really not seen something. We take on almost any challenges with our customers of let's talk through it and see how we can have a version of that.
Yeah. This question is a little bit related to that, but just in terms of things being, what they are this year. And so this question is, for a team that sees crowdfunding as a low to no cost option to fundraising, do you have any recommendations for incentives that don't cost money? I'd love to do a wine basket or something more personal, but I have been told that this year we need to keep down costs.
Maybe wrap in some experiences. If you have the ability to do one-to-one sessions with maybe a higher end board member or someone who has some quote unquote clout, or experiences together, small gatherings that are accepted, that don't cost you anything, but are the opportunity to bring people together. Incentives that don't cost a thing can be a challenge, but you can wrap in a free sponsorship in an upcoming event or some type of recognition, because that is an incentive for many people to be recognized. I myself don't love recognition, but there are plenty of people who that is a great fit, and that's really a great option to consider. But also think of it as a cost to return on value. If you set the incentive level to be $1,000 and that wine basket costs you $50, is it really worth it to make that investment? And maybe look at it as a cost to value kind of comparison, and that return on investment. You can get your crowdfunding campaign to a certain level where it pays for itself, then that can kind of come back to you and help you out there. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah. Cool. The next one, either of you could answer this, is how do we reignite supporters who are burnt out? So do we try to re-engage or do we let them go?
Before letting them go, I would suggest surveying them, to find out. And how do you know they're burned out if they're not telling you that? If they're telling you that, then maybe it is time to let them go. But it's I would welcome one-on-one, true, honest conversation with them, just to figure out what you can do to help keep them motivated, or where they're at with their level of support, because maybe it's maybe it's something else that you're not aware of, and maybe they have referrals that, hey, my heart's just not in it right now, or I'm not able to right now, but I've got this great friend who I know would be a perfect fit. So you never know what small conversation might lead to, but definitely, maybe looking at different incentives if you haven't offered those before, or looking at other ways that you can maybe invite them to be more involved in different ways. I don't know if I'm answering that well enough, Brandon, if there's anything else you would add to that.
I think you have some great points. And I think one thing is you never actually let them go, but sometimes you take a break. It's not like Ross and Rachel, you actually go on a break. But if you think of it as, someone who maybe their life has changed and they need a break from it, and that is totally okay. But think of it as someone who could bridge you to someone new and give them that space. So my wife and I went through this with an organization where we moved out of the area and we're not as engaged. We just can't do it. It's too far. It's too hard for us with a new child. So we decided to back away We didn't stop responding completely, but we told them we're kind of over it right now. We can't do it. And they, instead of just saying, okay, goodbye, nice knowing you, they sent us a really nice message of take the time to do what you need to do. We really appreciate all your support. If there is someone who might be interested in these upcoming things, and they gave us it all in one, these are the upcoming things, please let us know. And I sent 4 of my friends that were in the area looking to attend a type of educational seminar that they had to attend, and a couple of them attended. So you never know. It's hard to bring someone back that's just burnt out without giving them a little bit of a breather, or at least understanding, like Amy said, are they burned out or are they missing the message?
Yeah.
Really great point. This next question I love because I love Halloween. Oh my gosh, I keep trying to say Halloween. Our organization is having a hybrid fundraising event with a Halloween theme. Can you talk more about using a technology to raise money through a costume contest? I was not able to grab how this would go.
So yeah, I can address that.
Ready, you want to jump in? Yeah.
You've got the technical side probably better than I do, but we would recommend doing a voting campaign with this. And, it's $1 per vote or $5 per vote. Each costume is submitted. You add that in, whether you're using GiveSmart, it's into the system, and you have a picture, and people can vote remotely or on site. And with a hybrid, you're going to have people on site, obviously. And that allows you to raise a little bit of money. And it's a competition. The people who get the most votes win. So get as many votes as you can, put it on your social media, all that kind of stuff, and it drives interest. We see on average between 6 to 7 votes per donor when they participate. So that's $6 to $7. That adds up.
Yeah, I love that. Pictures go a long way. So post them on the site, drive people there to place the vote, and keep the dollar amount low so they vote a lot, or you can make it a higher vote too. Higher amount.
Yeah,
Well,
and video is huge for something like that, because if they act out a scene or they do something really fun with their costume, that's just going to help them win, and it's going to add more fun. It gives you social media content.
Yes,
marketer.
Yes, I love
that's
that.
The marketer in me.
Yeah. So we have another question about, this is for either of you to answer. How do we get our board more engaged in our fundraising efforts?
You want to jump in, Brandon?
I can definitely jump in. Every board, I would say, is a little different. You have to. It depends on how long they've been involved, how it's structured. Incentives, I've found, have been very beneficial. Incentives for bringing someone new, incentives for joining a committee, things as small as that sometimes motivate a board to get re-engaged. In this day and age, everyone has a lot going on in their lives. A lot could be distracting them. Mixing up your message and telling it in a different way. Even us, as a software company, we're continuing to try and tell our message in different ways. And, there's people who consume information in different ways. Some are obsessed with Twitter and they're on Twitter looking at the stream. There's others who've never even logged into Twitter. So you need to make sure that you're getting in front of them in the proper ways and making sure that you're communicating efficiently with board members. It's tough, sometimes it's just not going to work. And, just like someone who's burnt out, they aren't able to do it. But re-engaging board members, the key thing is to mix it up so they see something new. It's kind of like a smack in the forehead, like, oh, I forgot I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's so true. And don't be afraid to, just ask them, how can we get you more involved? They'll be the first ones to tell you, well, I don't want to be, or yes, here's something I saw someone else do. Have you considered this? Making them more a part of the process, more a part of a planning session, if you will, if you dare to go there. So, I think just involving them in more ways and making it a part of involving them and bringing them in might help your situation.
Totally. We have a question that's come through about raffles. So you shared the link about Tricky Tray and a raffle fundraiser. In our state, we can't hold online raffles. It's illegal. Is there a way to do this online?
Every state is different. Amy, I'll defer to you on the technicalities, but I do know you got to definitely check with your local gaming commissions. I can't speak for every state, but Amy, I'm sure you've experienced some of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you definitely do need to check with the ordinances that you've got in place per state, but you know, there are some ways around it. You can shift to just an online auction, and you know, what might have been a raffle item, you can move that into a bidding online, or there's purchases. You can purchase things to win. You know, I live in a state where online raffles are not allowed, and so ways around that are an opportunity to win. People might do opportunity drawings, or just changing the messaging or changing the verbiage, which is in essence kind of the same thing, but you're not calling it an online raffle. So it depends, but there are some ways around it, but you might just need to shift your strategy to kind of accommodate. Nothing wrong with taking what could have been a raffle item and putting it as a silent auction item, or you know, grabbing multiples of that same item and having people bid on that item a few different times. So yeah, we've got a great team that can share some good ideas on that too.
Yeah, think of you know, a game of chance. You can also do, if you know, for instance, I know I was talking with an organization that had a purse raffle and they couldn't do it online due to rules. They turned it into a purse, quote unquote, pull, similar to the wine pull, where they got a few more, you know, they got more purses donated and were able to do that game of chance where everyone wins something. So it's not a raffle by any means. It's, you don't know which purse you're going to get. It's just the luck of the draw. So that is a different way to look at that allows you to, one, everyone takes something home, and that allows you to still kind of have that theme if that really fits with what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Another question that has come through, it's kind of about combining some campaigns. So we'll be doing a direct mail appeal in addition to our peer-to-peer campaign. Do you recommend including information about the peer-to-peer campaign in the letter we'll be mailing?
Can you repeat? I'm sorry, Kelsey, I didn't hear the last part of that question.
Oh yeah, no worries. So do you recommend including information about the peer-to-peer campaign in the letter we'll be mailing for their mail and appeal?
Well, I think that might be kind of two separate initiatives that you might be trying to accomplish, but there's no harm in always directing people back to different initiatives or different ways that they can get involved. So I mean, I'm an advocate for it just because I like to share all of that information up front, and you never know who's going to be reading it or who's going to respond to it. So I don't see any harm in responding, but you want to direct them obviously to a place where you can capture that information, have that available if they're bidding on the online platform, where they can also see the links to participate as a champion, if that's an avenue you're going to go down. Do you have any suggestions from your marketing hat, Brandon, on that one?
So I'm a keep it simple person. There's another word usually on there, but I'll keep it PG. You know, keeping it simple, just, you know, if it's a direct appeal, then it should be a direct appeal. It's nice to include that stuff, but I get letters for appeals that have 14 different installs of all the things we have going on. And honestly, it's more likely that gets lost because there's just too much. Just like if you get an email that's 4 pages long, who's going to read that? It's really a less likelihood for someone to read that. So if the goal is to recruit more champions for your peer-to-peer fundraising through the direct mail, then yes, I would include that. But I would think of how you can message that in a very simple way that allows those that might be interested to find it, but not, really deflate the message of this is our direct mail appeal that you're probably familiar with and have donated to. There's no change. Continue to donate, because you don't want to siphon off donations because they lose interest because there's too much there. The envelope's thicker than usual, and they're like, oh my God, what are they asking us for now? You don't want to overwhelm them. So just think through how you want to position that, because again, it's all about how you ask things, and sometimes segmenting your messaging in those cases would be beneficial because you're going to have the higher likelihood of participation. Okay, and so we have one more question here. The question is,
We want to have the option of an individual champion pages be shown to create a bit of competition during our upcoming virtual fundraiser, which is replacing our gala. I understand that it does not do that now, but can it be added?
Did you say option or auction?
Option. We want to have the option of individual champion pages. Yeah.
So I can only address GiveSmart. I'm only an expert in that platform. But when it comes to a peer-to-peer campaign, the champion fundraising component is available through GiveSmart. If you're already a customer, you can reach out to your CSM. They can help you out with that. But that is a feature where you can have those competitions. You can have the leaderboards, and you can show how they are towards their own individual goal. So if you haven't seen that yet, definitely check that out. But that is the only platform I can address. But it is a feature where each one would have their own unique page.
Okay. Cool. And that is all. So thank you again to Amy and Brandon for joining today. And thank you to all of you who came. If you have an extra 60 seconds after we hang up, please fill out our survey so that we can curate our future content towards what you're hoping to learn more about in the coming months. And we really appreciate your feedback, and we use that to guide all that we do. So if you could, that would be extremely helpful. Thank you again. And tomorrow, if you want to join us for our Outside the Room series, we'll be with St. Mary's School based out of Illinois. And our September webinar is going to be about managing more and how to close the funding gap from COVID-19 through various campaigns. So that is all for today, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Bye.
Bye.